Hello everyone, Andy Conrad here with your favorite geopolitical channel here on YouTube to discuss a little bit of what happened with the massive US-led strike on the Iranian regime. I'm Andy Conrad. I'm an international affairs and geopolitical expert and analyst. This is my passion, is what I love doing. And I would love to hear your comments and see what you think this meant to you, these attacks that happened in the last days by the US and Israeli forces. And how do you think will be the future of Iran if you see things are going to move positive or negative in the next weeks to come? I'd love to hear about you. If you'd like, just drop me a commentary here below. Send me a message. I'd love to hear your thoughts. The key question isn't what happened. Everybody saw already from many news sources, all the strike, one of the biggest US military strikes in history of United States military. But I guess what we're here to analyze is more what this means actually moving forward to Washington, to Tehran moving forward. How are they going to restructure themselves after being reported that the main Iranian regime leader, Ali Khamenei, was reported to have been indeed killed. So I think it's a broad analysis of what's going to happen in the short term with the US-Iran relationship, and also how Europe is going to position itself after these attacks. So I think it's important for us to break down a little bit on the pros and cons of everything that is happening. So definitely, if we're looking to the value of all these reported attacks, what are the pros, if we're seeing from the Western perspective, from the US and European perspective? There's definitely, I'm going to bring four, but there's definitely more that we could develop and discuss of pros to all this situation. So first of them, we'll definitely see a deterrence restoration. So we've been seeing the Iranian leaders dragging these negotiations to actually end their military program and their nuclear and uranium enrichment facilities, and not really positioning themselves into the negotiation table. So I don't know if this was them testing the Western powers to see until when they would hold on to this, and actually while they gain, I believe in my analysis, while they were actually trying to gain time to continue in other locations other than the ones that were destroyed back in October, November last year. So definitely they were trying to gain time. Now, the Trump administration probably reached that red line. We're not seeing any advances. We're not really negotiating anything. And probably together with NATO, it got to the point that they were just worried that something, was far undeveloped from the Iranian side. So definitely, this act is a restoration of deterrence, right? The strikes signals that escalation from the Iranian side has consequences. Second pro probably is the capability of degradation. So targeting Iranian's infrastructure, command nodes, the proxy facilities of nuclear power, definitely will reduce any Iranian operational means and capacity. So definitely that is something that I believe not even the Middle Eastern countries, it's something that definitely the other Middle Eastern countries that neighbor Iran were something that they see as a pro, they benefit from, but also the world in general definitely we're looking to see, the destruction of any capability that Iran may present as, developing its nuclear capabilities, right? So we have deterrence restoration, 2, capability degradation, and 3rd, alliance reassurance. So definitely the regional partners, Israel, the Gulf states, often view, the US action as a reaffirmation, and definitely this massive US action, military operation is definitely seen as a reaffirmation of security commitments in the region. So this is needed, definitely balances the power, and definitely shows, no power of retaliation. There's no way Iran can respond to this level or to this alliance or to this level of military power, right? So if we're definitely looking from the Western side, the Europeans and the US, and the reassurance, right, of the alliance that they're strong and they're committed to work towards a goal has been seen by the world in the last week or so. And a fourth one, and after the fourth, I want to bring a fifth pro that I see, but a fourth is strategic messaging, right? So it's not just about Tehran, it's about demonstrating to the whole world that, that foreign actors, that the world is watching closely. If you are an authoritarian regime with no transparency, definitely there are global actors that are watching any military development. So it definitely goes as a strong message to China and Russia of everything that is happening, and if they go anywhere towards developing any nuclear facility or nuclear programs, is something definitely that people will be in the international community looking very, very closely. Now, I want to bring an aspect more of the humanitarian, the human side, right? It's definitely a pro, and this is more my perspective that I'm bringing to the table. Just having Iranian friends and colleagues in Washington, D.C., and the massive abuse of human rights and freedom in Iran. This regime installed itself 30 years ago to completely derail a country that has an amazing culture and had its freedom and its pride, and completely cut off any freedom of, and we have so many reports, and massive, unjudicial killings were happening in the country. I personally believe that the numbers that they bring in news agencies is far out of what the reality is, as the regime has been hiding, a lot of these, street executions and just throwing these bodies God knows where. So I definitely, this is a massive pro for freedom, for democracy, for anybody who believes that any human being should have, the freedom of speech, the freedom of going and coming, the freedom of women to go and being able to attain education. So those were rights that were definitely taken in Iran. So definitely for me, a needed move. I think the world is better with this attack, and having these people, these horrible authoritarian leaders that were governing the country, just see them go. So I want to go now a little bit to the risks, some of the strategic risks that we have already seen this week. Now in March 2026, we have been seeing, already the retaliation aspect, right? There's no way that we cannot see, civilians and innocent people being harmed or killed in this conflict. Iran already on the same day very aggressively started responding to, and it seemed to have been like a desperate retaliation strategy, just sending out their missiles to anywhere, any country that has either U.S. based in their countries, or just any Middle Eastern country that has some affinity with Western powers. So we definitely saw this escalate after Saturday, after the U.S. and Israel attack on the Iranians. Countries that have been affected. We see, the UAE. I mean, there was attack in massive tourist centers in Dubai. So it's the UAE being attacked, Qatar, also Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq, Jordan, even Cyprus, have reported striking down a couple of drones after one Iranian drone crashed on their southern coast. So there's definitely, sadly, those risks and those responses being reported after the attack. We see, as a consequence of this, like a regional spillover. So all these countries are reported, the whole Red Sea region, multiple theaters still in high alert, because things can definitely continuing heating up there in the next few days. Risk 3, and this is a big one if we're thinking about the energy and markets and oil markets, the volatility that we're seeing now with oil prices. So you may think that you're far away from this conflict and it's not going to affect you, but it will. It's a little bit controversial, the amount of oil that Iran controls through what they call the Strait of Hormuz, which is where oil production passes through that strait. So it's anywhere in between 20 and 30% of all oil production in the world. So definitely that's going to be impacted, the flow of oil. And just the next few days, we did see the price of oil rise. And I believe that it will continue rising in the next few days. That definitely impacts everybody just because transportation costs will affect for you as you get your oil, your gas, your gasoline, or as you depend on groceries from the supermarket. Transportation companies will be affected with higher oil and gas prices. So that's a big one, definitely. And risk 4, it's diplomacy, right? It's allies perceive the action. There's some allies that may perceive this action a little premature, a little bit, or something. The U.S. unilaterally took this decision and didn't actually either consult or got a voting from European partners. There could be a little bit of tension there between NATO powers and the U.S. as they carried out this attack with Israel. And now you see, like yesterday, for example, on the 3rd of March, President from France, Emmanuel Macron, came with a massive statement in a nuclear facility in France, as to me, like a massive show of force, but more like a desperate plea, like fearing that they may be attacked. As the Middle East and Iran is much more closer to Europe as it is to the United States, definitely if somebody or a leader there that is in Iran still alive and wants to do something reckless, all European powers definitely are fearing that and are in high alert. So you saw, to me, the message yesterday from Macron was a little bit of a desperate call of, or show of a force to try to balance out and show the power that they have. Don't mess with Europe, don't attack us. France is much more powerful than you. So they're definitely, it's going to be interesting to see in the next months or so to see how this is going to develop and how the European leaders are going to actually applaud the U.S. after so many years of repressive regime to taking this initiative and yes, making the world a safer place, because the world is a safer place without the Iranian regime doing the atrocities and menacing and threatening the world how it was. With no systems of actually transparency and checks and balances. So, but at the same time, I don't know if, we should be hearing more from European leaders if they thought that it was a little bit reckless to attack the way they did, while Iran was still saying that they were willing at some point to negotiate and actually finish with all their nuclear programs. So that should be something interesting to see in the next few days. So I guess for now, of course, this is going to be material of so many, news agencies, analysts, foreign affairs, national security to, be discussing what is our, future look like, what does Iran future looks like, who's going to take over the regime right now? Is it somebody who has force and power and is already in Iran, who is able to gather that popularity and actually move the country towards something plausible, towards a democratic state and freedom for all the citizens. Somebody who's willing to sit down with the U.S. and Europe to actually, calm down the tension and be a partner in the region and moving forward towards peace and more diplomatic ties with the world. So that's definitely something that everybody would love to see and hopes for. But I guess the main question after all this, after everything that is happening is, will this strike restore deterrence and calm everybody down? Or will it trigger a calibrated but more sustained Iran response right now, or actually trigger, some revolts through Iran's proxies? We know that Iran in the past few years have funded a lot of their proxies in other countries. Is just going to trigger and actually make them, more upset and more irritated and aggravated and want to retaliate and do reckless attacks in the future, as we have seen in the past when we targeted and actually killed other terrorist, or, organizations, or one of the, territory. Essa parte apaga tudo, tá? As we have seen in the past, some terrorist organizations, when we see a leader killed, that does not solve a problem. It only fuels those insurgents to kind of go further and retaliate in some form. So this is going to be very interesting to see. Did the U.S. do enough? Is the U.S. doing enough with European leaders, with Israel, to show there is no chance here if you're going to decide through a proxy in another country or through leftovers from the Iranian regime to actually come back and try to strike to any way or form? Did it actually deter all these? Is this a message that, this should end and let's move forward to a brighter future? Or did it actually just trigger, harsher or a worse regime or a worse leadership in Iran and worse attack through Iran's proxies in other countries? So that's something that we're going to be seeing, and it will be very interesting to watch in the next few months. Thank you everyone for watching. If you can, support my channel. I'm Andy Conrad. I'm a foreign affairs and geopolitical expert. This is my passion. If you can, support my work and subscribe to my channel, watch my videos, give me any feedback, even if negative. Everything is much appreciated. Thank you.